If you watch recent real estate trends closely, you might think large groups of Americans suddenly decided to start a cult. They aren't. They are just trying to buy a home. Instead of grinding for a tiny starter house alone, siblings, parents, and friends are pooling their money together to secure multi-generational, multi-income mortgages. We are witnessing the rise of the compound house. People are turning to this extreme strategy because the mathematical reality of buying a house by yourself right now resembles a horror movie. The traditional solo path to homeownership has ceased to be a normal rite of passage. It is a financial trap that buyers are desperate to bypass. This chart shows exactly why the old path is broken. On the bottom axis, average wages move like a tired turtle, barely inching upward. Meanwhile, average home prices have violently detached from reality, shooting up in a chaotic exponential curve. You can execute perfect financial discipline. You eat the cheap ramen, cancel your streaming subscriptions, and ignore your friends when they go out to dinner. You save a pile of cash. The system still rejects you. Walk into a bank today with a standard individual salary, and they will either laugh you out the door or approve you for a decaying shed that needs a new roof and a foundation repair. If you actually manage to buy that shed, half your monthly paycheck immediately vanishes into the mortgage. This is what banks call being house poor. You technically achieve ownership, but you sacrifice all financial security. A single flat tire or a medical bill will ruin you. Following the old rules of the American dream guarantees financial fragility rather than stability. Buyers are surviving by getting highly creative and stopping their participation in a game they are mathematically guaranteed to lose. Look at a dispersed family structure. You rent an apartment downtown. Your older brother rents a townhome in the suburbs. Your parents own a smaller house, still paying off their mortgage. This diagram illustrates the severe financial cost. Every month, you pay 3 separate mortgages, duplicate property taxes, and triple utility fees. The compound house stops that bleed. You take those dispersed payments and smash them together into a single massive financial boulder. Financial isolation is a luxury tax the working class can no longer afford to pay. Let's say your absolute maximum personal budget is $400,000. Alone, you are fighting 20 other desperate buyers for a miserable property with weird carpet in the bathroom. But if your brother brings a $400,000 budget and your parents sell their home to bring another $400,000, you transform from 3 broke individuals into a single entity wielding $1.2 million in buying power. Crossing that $1 million mark entirely changes the assets available to you on the open market. The inventory shifts to properties with finished basement apartments, massive backyard guest houses, or triplexes where every member gets their own front door and complete privacy. Institutions love this setup because you provide a massive pooled down payment and the bank sees 3 solid, reliable incomes. You become a remarkably safe bet. You secure superior financing, better interest rates, and the monthly cost per person drops dramatically. This collective approach transforms a group of struggling borrowers into a high-value institutional client, forcing the bank to provide the kind of leverage usually reserved for professional real estate investors. Entering a 30-year legal debt commitment with your relatives sounds terrifying. Casual, informal family lending is a historical recipe for catastrophic financial ruin, and a Thanksgiving dinner that ends with the police being called. Yet, wealthy dynastic families have successfully navigated these exact risks for centuries. They simply dress it up with fancy titles like the family estate or a trust fund. The danger of the compound house does not come from pooling money. The danger comes from failing to properly institutionalize the rules of the arrangement. Everyday people are catching on to the secret of the wealthy. They avoid the emotional drama by treating their family relationships exactly like a formal business. Smart buyers refuse to casually co-sign a massive loan and cross their fingers. They deploy specific legal structures to protect family members from each other and from individual default. This organizational chart shows how the strategy works. Families form a literal limited liability company, an LLC, a legal structure that makes them formal business partners and protects their personal assets from collective ruin. Alternatively, they use a tenants in common agreement, a binding contract that dictates exact fractional ownership and exit clauses for the property. The modern housing crisis has forced everyday Americans to adopt the cold, structural logic of a corporation just to save the warmth of the family home. Married couples usually rely on joint tenancy. Think of it like a pizza. Everyone owns the whole pie together without specific boundaries. But with tenants in common, ownership is explicitly divided. One person might own a 30% slice, their brother 30, and parents 40. Because these slices are assigned assets, they are transferable. If one owner wants to move away, they can sell their specific 30% share to a third party, or back to the group. If an owner passes away, their slice doesn't disappear. It goes to whoever is named in their will. This structure changes a shared living space from an amorphous commitment into a quantifiable and protected financial asset. To make this work, these families draft an operating agreement. This is a mandatory, legally binding rulebook that governs how the house functions. The group sits down with a lawyer to map out specific scenarios. If someone loses their job and can't pay the mortgage, or if someone gets married and wants to move out in 5 years, the rulebook dictates exactly how the property is appraised and how they get bought out. It also covers daily logistics. The contract defines the landscaping budget, who mows the lawn, and who pays if a tree falls on the roof. It might seem extreme to sit across a mahogany table with your mom and a lawyer to formally argue about maintenance liabilities, but legalizing these worst-case scenarios removes human emotion from the equation. When a problem happens, you don't have to yell or argue. You just open the binder to the correct section and see what the contract says. While mortgage savings are significant, the financial shift is most visible when you divide the cost of major home maintenance. A new roof can cost $15,000. For a solo owner, that expense can drain a savings account to zero. But in a compound house, you split it 3 ways. Suddenly, a major financial blow becomes a $5,000 inconvenience. The savings extend to recurring costs as well.